what do we do going forward? You know?
So, and thank you for, I think, laying out a good case for Build Back Better and what are the policy, economic, and other options that we have. We shouldn't forget a couple of other points that matter, right? Back to the kind of human element and not to speak in too many abstractions. Puerto Rico is poorer than the poorest state of the Union. Mississippi has that dubious distinction for the continental United States, and Puerto Rico makes Mississippi look rich. We earn $20,000 on average per household, and then you throw in a compounding effect of a 30% price increase courtesy of the Jones Act, and then you throw in a 4%, if not higher, cost per kilowatt hour than the US mainland. We're almost deliberately strangling the people of Puerto Rico.
That's right.
And if you had any doubt of their patriotism, as I think General Cheney alluded to, I'm happy to take people on a walk to visit the Vietnam Memorial to find out, you know, the value of a Puerto Rican life is just as important as an American one. And yet we are carrying on with a series of legacy policies that have no place in the 21st century. I take no pleasure, and neither does General Cheney or anybody else with the American Security Project, in having to see the military deployed in the fashion that it is being deployed. The reason being is that this is the costliest of interventions we have. By the time the military is stepping in to rebuild, whether it's in Houston, Florida, San Juan, or anywhere else, every other line of defense has failed. Right? And so this is the costliest of interventions you have in an economy. And if you want to be a resilient 21st century economy, you have to start building resilience at the household level. And that is not only about construction and prevention and preparation, but it's also about recovery, it's also about economics. And so everything we're talking about here, it's not about abstractions, right? It's about real people affected in real time, and yet we're responding to 21st century crises almost in an analog fashion, right? We're almost kind of working our way through, and do you have this document and this clearance to get the FEMA, FEMA mobilized? Let's also recall, FEMA needed an 11th hour line of credit from Congress to respond to Harvey. We had $1 billion in FEMA's budget. This is irresponsible, folks. In an era where climate risks do not recognize borders, political lines, and other, Houston had and Texas had 3 500-year flooding events each year for the last 3 years. And we have a federal emergency management agency with $1 billion in its budget, well before. And so it wasn't but for that line of credit, this emergency line of credit, boosted FEMA's resources to $15 billion, that all of a sudden we had a little bit more money in FEMA's coffers. We're not ready as a society for the types of risks that are facing us. And so I think what happens in Puerto Rico and how the United States responds foreshadows what is going to happen with the rest of the country. Our infrastructure scorecard nationally is dismal. Our level of human readiness is dismal. And the types of threats we have to face, whether they're thrown at us by Mother Nature, terrorism, domestic issues, biodefense and epidemics and pandemic risks, none of these things check in with Homeland Security or at the TSA. And so this concept of Fortress America that I think has sunk in a lot of our policy-making apparatus is really, really dangerous. And you and I and 3.4 million American citizens in Puerto Rico and the US Virgin Islands should not be forgotten, or our other neighbors in the region, are foreshadowing what the rest of our world looks like unless we really, really do get ahead of these issues with great urgency.
Yeah, I think that's right. The vulnerability of islands almost makes them kind of the first canary in the coal mine, as it were, or something like that. They're the ones that you have to deal with it first, and if you can't deal with it,